One more. I'm not through with you yet. Oh, look at that. It's your little friend. Let's watch that time together, shall we? No! It's game over for both of you. No. Just for me. I'm bad. And that's good. I'll never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. Why are you going into the no, no, no. Yeah, no. Go into the lot. Welcome to 23 August 2023. Share the chat. Hopefully it's going to work correctly. It is not. It is not working correctly. Shadow, Macy, Walters. Good. Afternoon for me, evening for most of you, and morning for one person, hopefully, who may or may not be here. Give me a second, guys, while I try to fix my technical difficulties, because God help me, I should ever do this correctly. And yes, hello, Wasp. Yes, of course I call him Wasp. Warsaw Patriot. Wasp. Okay. Shadow asked earlier, why do we watch a choppy, not sure what he meant by that, children's movie? Because, Shadow, in that moment, Ralph made a decision. He gave up his life for Vanellope's. Kind of sounds familiar to me. And he's saying the video is choppy on your end. I believe you. I absolutely believe you. I'm sorry. I wish I could do better. Okay. I'm going to start this one off with an apology to Ghost Tactical and Clover Tack. I did something really, really dumb. Do not speak in lingo with people that do not understand the lingo in question. A little over a week ago, on Ghost's live stream, I said I got a set 2. And it didn't even occur to me. Set 2 means to set the second alarm here. All right. That means the workers have all left for the day. interpreted that a little bit differently, and understandably so, considering well, what it looked like it meant. So don't fucking do that. All right. Try to be a little bit better than me at these sort of things. And yeah, sorry about that, Ghost. Sorry, Clover. I will try not to do that again. Okay. Off to the next subject. This is late breaking news. And I want to make sure I do this correctly. So give me a second. I'm not going to pull up the story. Just out of sheer coincidence, Wagner Group's CEO Yevgeny Protskin and COO Dmitry Singaruns Yutkin have both died in the same plane crash on the exact same day. That plane crash just happened to get caught on film. Wow. How amazing. I'm not crying for them. Fuck them. Hey Bernie, I didn't see you walk in. Fuck them. All right. That little stunt that they pulled a couple months ago could have had consequences far, far beyond where it did end up stopping. So that's great. Them being gone is a good thing. Hey, Squatch. But it is overwhelmingly curious. All right. This is going to blow the conspiracy theory types up. They're going to trip offline in a way that even my Tourette's cannot begin to match. Do not listen to anything anybody has to say, especially so-called official sources, for the next couple of months, because everything you're going to hear is wild, crazy-ass speculation on an order I don't think we've seen in the last, 26 months. I'm just saying, that's my number. All right. And no matter what happens, do not believe anything that comes out of Russia. Even when they're telling the truth, they're lying. As Walter Davis puts out, yeah, going against Putin in Russia was not a great idea. That was a fucking bad idea. All right. Don't listen to anything anybody says for the next couple of months. If it comes out of Russia, just dismiss it right away. Don't even waste your time reading, because it might be true and it's still a lie. No, Bernie, I don't think he faked his own death. Well, as Wasp points out, every government will lie to you at some level. Some are worse than others. For those of you tuning in from England, Britain, that quaint little island country off of Europe, whatever the fuck you want to call yourselves, I don't care. They have this system of reporting statistics, crime statistics. If you're not convicted of the crime, you didn't do it. All right? That's what it boils down to. So it's not a murder if you plead guilty to negligent homicide, which is the equivalent, legally, it's the equivalent of an accident, just a very, very fucking stupid accident. Thank you, Squatch. I know why too, and that's unfortunate for me. Moving on. Yeah, I'm sure it is, Squatch. Moving right along. They don't report something as it actually happens. They report it as the conviction. They learned that from Joseph Stalin. He wanted the world to think the Communist Brotherhood was better. Of course, nobody would believe him if he said there's no rapes in our country. But if you're not actually convicted of rape, if you plead guilty to sexual assault, not sexual battery, touching, but sexual assault, implication of touching, well, it's not rape now. No matter how you tied her down and literally forced her, no matter how vulgar the crime really was, you're not guilty of what you weren't convicted of. So as excuse me guys, as I'm going to back it, as Macy points out, they're very, very good at lying. All right, we're going to move on. All right. Don't listen to anything the official sources say, or basically anybody says. For the next couple of months, because everybody's just speculating. Even I'm speculating right now that yes, this doesn't pass the smell test, right? And yet it could actually have been a legitimate plane crash, accidental plane crash. All right, I'm going to move on to the real subjects today. What were the real subjects today? Maui Fires. Okay. Maui Fires. Maui, Hawaii has just burned to the ground. And as far as I know, the last of the burn, well, the last of the smoke is still dissipating into the air. The last of the flames may still be burning as we speak. You'd think being literally right next to an ocean, they could just pump ocean water onto the fire, but that didn't happen. I don't know why. I don't care. It's not relevant at this point. It's too late. I know that there's people that are saying that it was planned, that it was the electrical grid breaking down, that there's a million other things. Set all that to the side. It's too late. It's done now. Right? Yes, Squatch. Hawaii is just a big volcano, but this was not related to the volcanic activity. So that's the one thing we can say for sure. Maui Fires had nothing to do with the volcanic activity. It just occurs to me, with 800 people being dead, that there's a lot of people that could have been fighting that fire. I've talked about this in the past. Now here's another golden opportunity for me to spurg out again. We need to reestablish the militia system. All right. 1 weekend a month, 6 hours Saturday, 6 hours Sunday. You report to one of a very small number of facilities. Your local school, grade school, probably good enough for everything except segment number 3. We're just going to call it that for now. There are 12 months in the year. There are 4 programs. The first one is first aid CPR. Second one is fire prevention response. The third one is firearms safety and training. And the fourth one is regionally specific. This gives them a little bit of flexibility to say, hey, you know, we have flooding here. We need to train for that. Or we have earthquakes here. We need to train for that. Or maybe, Ozzy, who's in the chat. By the way, hi, Ozzy. Sorry. He lives in Canada, where they have ice storms, the like of which Americans do not truly appreciate outside Alaska. Maybe that's what they need to train for. So how are we going to respond to a snowstorm that literally buries a city? No, I'm not even joking, people. Like 14-foot deep snowdrifts in some places. Yes, I'm aware, Ozzy. That fire started months ago and it's still going. Moving right along. Reestablishing the militia system. Every month you'd show up for one of those four in rotation, in proper rotation. Let's assume that you're with company number one. Company number one starts in January. Okay, great. January, you're going to do your first aid CPR. May, you'll do first aid CPR. And September, you'll do first aid CPR. As long as you get one of those three every year, you're golden. You really should be showing up for the other two. And if you can't show up for one because you're supposed to be out of town for 6 months, okay, great, fine. You can make it up later or at least have it done for the 1 month. That 1 month of the one training cycle of the year. Company A, February would be fire response and prevention. I goddamn guarantee you the results out of Maui would have been very, very different. We wouldn't be talking about 800 dead. We might be talking 8 dead and 2 blocks destroyed, gone, flattened. A couple more blocks, a few more blocks, very badly damaged, right? The buildings damaged to the point where they have to be torn down. Okay, fine. That's unfortunate. But that beats the whole city being literally burned to the ground. It looked like Hiroshima. I'm not even joking, people. That level of devastation has not been seen outside of war. Well, since 2017 that I know of. Oh, wait, no. 2020, when 2 other cities in California burned to the ground. This has been going on for quite some time. Ozzy knows the name better than I do. I want to say Fort McMurdo. Fort McMurdo, Canada, burned to the ground in 2014, 2015, something like that. They had to evacuate about 500,000 people. Wait, that's 500,000 Fort McMurray. Thank you. That's about 500,000 people who could have been fighting the fire. Why were they being evacuated instead of saving their city? Thank you, Ozzy. That's right. Okay, a lot of them were children and elderly and disabled. Okay, fine, evacuate them. We're still going to be talking at least 100,000 people who could have been fighting that fire. Now, there's levels of skill involved. Any idiot, literally any idiot, whose body is physically capable of it can tend a fire hose. I've done it. Don't tell me I don't know what I did. They can move the main the 5-inch fire main lines. They can tend the 2-inch firefighting lines. Yes, a firefighter will have to be on the nozzle. Yes, a firefighter will have to be the attack team leader. And yes, a firefighter will have to man the fire engine itself. Fire engineer at that. Not just any firefighter, but an engineer. A lieutenant probably would be the attack team leader. But there is a lot of man hours that could have been used to fight McMurray or Maui or Paradise, where the death toll is officially still only 89, despite the fact that about 24 people now are still unaccounted for. Okay. I guys, please hold your speculation, your conspiracy theories, your other theories to a very bare minimum. All right. One of the things that will get me in the most trouble, the only thing that will really get me in trouble, is any lie at all. I could make a million mistakes, but if I tell one lie, guys, I'm fucked. So please don't help them lube up their strap-ons. All right? I'm looking at you, Shadow. I get it, Ozzy. Please let that go for now. Focus on what did happen. What we know is absolutely irrevocably provable. The city burns to the ground. 800 people are still unaccounted for. And they're probably dead. And a lot of them will never be recovered because those fires burn so hot, there's not enough ash to identify that it was once a human being. When I say that place looked like Hiroshima, I'm not joking. I'm not sure Hiroshima suffered that level of devastation, at least not beyond about a mile around ground zero. Right? But for the radiation, the two are indistinguishable. Okay. Wow, Ozzy. Wow. Macy. Well, basically, yeah. Yes, Ozzy, the firebombing. It was General LeMay, primarily. We love you, Susan, you cunt. Okay, I'm caught up. Please, let's focus on what we know absolutely did happen and what we can do to stop the next one, guys. If those people had been available to fight the fire rather than being forced to flee for their lives, that thing would have turned around in the first 2 blocks rather than spread across. I want to emphasize this. I heard about it in the first couple hours that it had happened before it got to the out of control point. I remember thinking, Maui's on fire, so what? There's a fire in Maui, so what? This is something they know. This is something they're used to. A couple hours later, it's completely out of control. To the point where, well, we are where we are now. Excuse me. I got the light glaring off me. The sun was reflecting off the building next door. Why are we not doing this? All right. Locally, there's some of us that do it anyway. They have their own fire engine. I don't know how we plan to effectively use it, but okay. No, I'm not blinded my own intelligence under any sort. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed there, Macy. I know it. Neither am I a dull spoon. It's time to bring back the militia system. Now, the way I would think it would work. This is my concept. You take everybody from a given area, everybody that lives in a given area. Now, how these given areas are broken up, I don't know. It might have to come down to buildings in a city block because it's apartment buildings in this neighborhood. There's just too many people to do everybody at the same time, in everything at least. So everybody in this apartment building may have to be in one militia, the Ozymandias Towers, right? Because Ozzy is the last person I can see commented. And they are broken down into into 4 companies. Most months have 4 weekends or 4 weeks, So 4 companies. A, B, C, and D. A company is January through April. B company is February through May. C company is March through June. Your 4-month period starts with first aid CPR. So if you're in D company and you just arrived and you've just been assigned to a company and it's January, you're not going to be starting with first aid CPR. That's, that there's nothing you can do about that. You're fine. You'll be starting with other disasters, regionally specific. And it is what it is. And you may not actually get any hands-on training for that because it may not be possible. How do you do hands-on training for earthquakes without collapsing buildings? All right. Maybe there's something they could do. Los Angeles has more than sufficient experience, experience with earthquakes. They could probably set up a pretty good earthquake simulator so you could practice rescuing people. You would also sometimes have to play the victims. That way, as you're the one lying underneath the building and you hear all these noises and you don't know what's going on around you, you'll have a better understanding of, okay, I know that sound. That's the sound of a saw. So they're cutting something. They're trying to get to me. When you're the one being rescued, everything's fucking terrifying. When I played Oscar for man overboard drills at one of my units, the boat coming up to me was fucking ginormous. Now, when I'm the one on the boat, I'm sitting there thinking, what is taking us so long to get to him? When I was the one in the water, I saw, oh, that's why they come up so slowly. You need to be on both sides so you know what's going on. You need to be on the rescuee side so you understand what it's like being there too. Okay. Walter Davis says the militias can't organize very much right now. Nothing like a Richmond, Virginia rally. I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, Walt. So let me know later. All right. Believe it or not, under federal law, every county sheriff is that county's Office of Emergency Services coordinator. As such, my theory, my concept, every company of the militia will actually elect one captain from their ranks, and you can elect them however you want. I don't care. That captain would report either directly to or the county sheriff, if it's a small enough county, or to a sheriff's deputy lieutenant, if it's a big enough county. The city and county of New York. Fucking huge. The police department alone is bigger than the U.S. Coast Guard. That's a big city when you realize that only 1 out of every 100 or so people is in any way connected to law enforcement. Not the police department, but the police, sheriffs, marshals, probation, parole, corrections, and the other two that I forget off the top of my head. That's a fucking huge city. You want the one county of New York sheriff to handle that many captains, militia captains? That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in 100 years. You, as just an ordinary member, you report only to your captain. Your captain will report to whoever it is over at the sheriff's office, who reports to the sheriff. Okay, all of the sheriffs, or all the militia captains are reporting 95%, and they're all saying that the 5% are people who are exempt for this month or permanently or whatever. Is this such a crazy idea? Well, let me give it to you, put it to you this way. Once upon a time, this not only was the law, but if you refused to report to militia for a militia call out, you got to go to jail because the sheriff would take you there until a judge could rule on your case. This idea of fighting fires, believe it or not, once upon a time, the county militia was also the fire department and could be called out under, oh, God damn it. It's not posse comitatus. It's a different principle that I can't remember off the top of my head, for particularly wanted and dangerous criminals or suspects, whatever you want to put there. You don't have to call them out for everything, but if it's big enough, you do call them out. All right. Oh, Jesus. Well, I don't remember that one. But okay. I wish I knew. I really wish I remembered that. Back in the day of the militia, they were the fire department because Bucket Brigade was the fire department. So, just try to keep it a little bit in context here. They were the what we would today call the Fugitive Task Force and SWAT teams. They were the local defense force. I'm going to point out a couple other things since I've already picked on New York once. They have a city militia. Yeah. It's the New York Police Department Auxiliary, which is called out for crowd control and riots. They are entirely civilian. They are supposed to not carry guns on duty. I assume they all obey that rule. And they do carry riot gear. They do wear riot gear and they pay for it themselves. Let's see, who else has limited militias? Almost all volunteer fire departments, that's the case. I used to live in Dallas, Oregon. No, Oregon, just outside of Salem. That was a volunteer fire department. You reported or not based on whether you were available that day. I have seen Gangs of New York. I'm not sure where that. Oh yes, I see it now. Okay, I'm gonna highlight this. That is a fact of history, and it was a pretty ugly fact of history that hopefully will not come back anytime soon. Okay. Walt is saying that there is a number of actual militias in Queens. There's a member with a tank. There is a big difference between a gun club and a militia. A militia actually reports to an elected official. Right? You can call yourself a ham sandwich. That doesn't mean I'm going to eat you. Although I might consider it. The militia actually does report to the county sheriff. They did in the beginning. We fell away from this, but somewhere between the 20s and 50s, for lack of need or for perceived lack of need, because of advancing technology. Well, all right, you can think of that whatever you want to think about. It just sort of fell by the wayside. Well, it's time to bring that back. And as a proper, professionally, if limitedly trained body. Okay, that's reenactors then. And that's cool. I like reenactors. Ozzy not necessarily. Ozzy's saying tanks are legal if certain modifications are made. Not necessarily. What I think it's class 3 license, and you put the stamps on it. There's a hey, yes, you're late, DJ, but that's okay. So was I. At least you're not gay like me. Where was I? Where was I? There's an outfit down in Arizona, I think it is. Drive tanks. You can actually drive and shoot real tanks. DJ, I was just talking about bringing back the classic militia system. We love you, Susan, you cunt. Moving right along. All right. You're broken up into battalions. Your battalion is broken up into 4 companies. 4 companies have 4 different training weekends. If it's a 5-weekend month, great. Everybody gets 1 weekend off. Go play. Go away. We want not to see you this week. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 4 weeks in a month, 4 companies, right? You're only required to show up for one of them. Your company might be broken down further. So, your 14th Battalion, A Company, great. But you might not be showing up for the first weekend of the month. You might be A Company second. So you show up on the second weekend of the month. So if you're going away, if you're in the fourth weekend of the month and you really want to go away for 2 months, you might be able to switch over to first weekend. You can still do the training. It still qualifies. You just did it a couple of weeks early. And then the next month, you do it the last weekend of the month. You got about 7 or 8 weeks free. Bye. We'll see you in 2 months. Right? Good to go. And if it's something you've already covered for the year, okay, great. You get the pass. We do want to see you at least 2 training periods per year. You only legally would be required to go to 1 for each. If you're one of those people that you just go every weekend, maybe you get it all done in January. You have the rest of the year to yourself. You might miss something important, like changes to evacuation plans, or a change to a law is going back to pick on New York again. Maybe the New York militia, they changed the rules so that you have to carry if you're responding to insurrection, riot, or etc. Okay, great. You show up for riot duty, you don't have your gun on you, you're getting sent home. Or you're getting a piece of paper that says, hey, you screwed up. Fix this next time. Maybe a million other things you really want to know about. I also want to point something else out. The militias have been called up in living history. Any of you that were able to remember 1989, all right, which I think is everybody in the chat right now. DJ, I've heard your voice. I think you're old enough. Walt, I don't know one way or the other. Wasp, I know, is old enough to remember 1989. He may not remember what I'm about to talk about. But anyway, the militia was called out in 1989 for the San Francisco earthquake. Boom. Holy shit, you didn't know that, did you? Yeah. There was a fire up in the northwest corner of the city. It's not the Tenderloin district. God damn it, I forget the name. Anyway, there had been an evacuation to a city park. The fire was about to breach containment. This thing is done, right? We're all going to die. And some fire captain pointed to the people in the park and said, guess what? You're all firefighters right now. Get on those lines and start helping us fight this fire. And of the roughly 200 people in that park, 150 to 180 of them jumped up and ran and grabbed lines. And no, they were not all perfect. Okay, that's fine. Some of them put wet stuff onto glass stuff that they didn't need to and broke glass and damaged buildings. Okay, I'm fine with that too. They probably did about $500,000 worth of damage. But in stopping that fire, they prevented it from overwhelming the city, probably burning the whole thing to the ground. And I don't even know how to calculate those kinds of numbers. But we're not talking about hundreds and pushing thousands dead. We're talking probably closer to 1/3 people who would not have survived that. It's just not going to happen. Okay. Yeah, that was a militia call out. It was not by the sheriff of San Francisco. Yeah, okay, great. You want to go sue the city of San Francisco? I'm telling you right up now, I'll be on the witness list to say, yeah. So what? Well, it was legal by the rules that existed at the time, or force majeure, which even the strictest court is going to be like, he just enforced the big fuck you rules, so there's not much we can do now. Right? There's a million other things. Strictly speaking, maybe not. You're not going to win that battle, so don't bother. And don't go in there saying, I told you so, because I'm telling you not to. Okay, so Walt is saying, kind of wish I had you in here right now. Anyone with any organization was called on. My cousin lived there then. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. Or maybe not. Okay. Thank you, Ozzy, for that history lesson. But moving right along, yeah, that was the militia. By the way, for those of you that are old enough to remember 9/11, Flight 98. Yeah, that was also militia. Okay, that one was strictly speaking illegal because it was not called by a sheriff, and by now this rule exists. It was called by a air traffic controller. All right. Was it air traffic controller? You know what? If I'm wrong, I'll eat that shit later. It was also when the government called upon private citizens to respond to a crisis in development. And what was the response? You ready? Let's roll. Shanksville. That was the end of that one. Okay, a couple practical considerations. First of all, how do you identify somebody who's on militia duty versus somebody who's just being an asshole? Well, my thought was blue vests. I was working at Walmart at the time when I first had this idea. I was working at Walmart and I see everybody walking around with just these simple blue vests. Of course, it has the Walmart logo on it. One of my coworkers had a Marine Corps pin on his, which, damn, dude, you were a Marine. Okay. He's also the first Marine I ever heard refer to it as a cult. So props for honesty, bro. That's not fair. Props for honesty, brother. A little too much honesty, but that's okay. I realized just how simple and cheap and easy to use these would be. And then all you do is you have an emblem on it that shows the legal entity that you operate under the auspices of, like your county or maybe your city. You want to get a little more refined, maybe your local fire department. Whatever. And then across the back, you have Boy Scout troop patch numbers, troop number patches, right? B, numbers, C, letter, and the other numbers if they need to. So in an instant, they can see, okay, this person is associated with Ozymandias Towers, 2nd Battalion, B company, third. Okay. Now, who is this guy? Why is he setting up a roadblock off of I-5? And a highway patrolman could take a look at his computer and say, oh, there's supposed to be a roadblock there. And the roadblock is supposed to be manned by such and such a person. Well, let me go talk to this guy. Who are you? Show me your ID. Okay, you're the guy that's supposed to be here. Bye. Oh, okay. No, Ozzy, I don't know what that means anyway. And yeah, Squatch, I think I was about the same age. Yeah, I think that sounds right. Either way, we could be called upon to do just some very basic things. It doesn't need a properly trained firefighter, a properly trained police officer, right? Properly trained paramedic. You could have literally millions of man hours open up for all these people that have to go do other things, right? Like do the house to house searches looking for people who might be trapped at home and can't leave, or to go right up on top of the fire because they got 16 people already manning they're tending their hose lines. That's 16 firefighters that are putting the nozzle on to that fire. I'm just saying. And yes, Macy, there was, in fact, it was the World Series, Giants versus versus A's. I'd been suspended from school for a week, and Mom was ready to kill me, so she sent me with Dad. We went out of town because that's he inspected hospitals. He looks at me and says, "I know you're going to watch the game, but do your homework as well." Yeah, Dad. I wasn't going to watch the game, and yet something told me, turn it on, turn it on, turn it on, turn it on. I didn't even want to watch the game. I don't like watching sports. Something told me, turn on the fucking TV on. Well, now I know what it was. I felt the earthquake. I just didn't know I felt the earthquake. The moment I turned that TV on, the "We Will Rock You" part was over. And what caught me, everybody's down on, yeah, okay, everybody's down on the field. And then I see a dress down on the field. Why is there a woman on a baseball diamond, a baseball field? And then the announcer says, a magnitude 7.1 earthquake, or 4 decimal, whatever the fuck it was. I don't even remember. The game was just about to open. They just started the feed. I think the A's were out on the field and the Giants were coming out to the field, or vice versa. I can't remember which, when the rumbling started. Yeah. Oh, no, Ozzy. No. He did not have that license plate. Okay, so the Giants were on the field and the A's were coming out. And it's better to be stuck at Candlestick Park than to have been on the Nimitz Freeway that day. I can tell you that. You must have tuned in about 2 minutes before I did. Damn the luck. All right. Paradise wasn't a wake-up call. Campfire wasn't a wake-up call. Fort McMurray wasn't the wake-up call. Is rich people's houses burning to the ground finally going to get people to wake up and realize that we probably needed to start doing this formally in 1989? This is a generic Christian flag. This is Coast Guard battle flag. Battle ensign, excuse me. Walt may not know this. I was a Coastie for 14 years. We love you, Susan. You cunt. And believe it or not, this is also my chapel flag. It's time to bring back the classic militia system. Everybody's in. By the way, you'll notice Yaroslav has a bunch of exemptions, which we'll be talking about later today, or some of them we will be. This militia plan does not have any exemption. If you are physically able to go, you go. If you're disabled and unable to serve in any capacity, great. You're going to play the role of victim for everybody else to rescue. All right. So that in the real world, when this happens, you're going to know what's going on around you. Yes, it's always going to be too soon for those jokes in reference to 89 because Nimitz Freeway. All right, so I spent an hour beating that horse to death. I can spend another 5 hours beating that horse to death and cussing you out and everything else, but I think we're going to move along instead. Actually, we're going to kind of go back a little bit, but not so much. Hurricane Hillary, which just ripped through California and up into, well, I mean, we got a little bit of it here in Nevada, in Reno, is actually a pretty good example. Now, further south, further south, but anyway, further south, it was a bigger deal. Further south you went, the bigger the disaster was, right? But we had massive flooding basically everywhere to about Las Vegas, which, Las Vegas, who gives a fuck? But other places we kind of do care a little bit about. Apparently the hurricane front was bad enough that Papa Carey caught some of the rain way the hell out in basically the western end of Northern California. Like, you don't get any further out until you get up into the mountains. God damn it, Ozzy, not right now, please. Save those jokes for the political streams. That's not fair. That's not fair, Ozzy. I know better. But anyway, that was a natural disaster. Now, was it militia call out? Were they? Probably not. But the militia came out informally during Katrina, and the one in Houston. I forgot the name. Yeah, I forgot the name. Because the local emergency responders were overwhelmed. So people with boats just started going around picking people up. All right. Thank you for coming, Macy. Keep calm and mantra carry on. I'm actually stone cold sober today, by the way, folks. You also need to be prepared personally for a disaster. Here's a simple rule of thumb. All right. Go camping in your living room. No, I'm not fucking joking. Go camping in your living room. Can you make it for a weekend camping in your living room? If you can, good to go. Bear in mind, you cannot turn on any electricity unless it's battery powered. You can still use the toilets. Okay, fine. You cannot cook by electricity. You cannot do anything else by electricity for that weekend. If you can make it through that weekend, just upscale your inventory towards about a week, 2 weeks. A little secret about Brent is he got caught in Hurricane Katrina. They were camped out in some guy's living room for 2 weeks. Now, they were fine. Other people around them, not so much. I'm sorry. Good night. Well, I hope I see you again. Okay. So the reason that Brent's friends did so well is they had done exactly this drill. They camped out in their house for a full week, not just a weekend. That's why they were perfectly fine while everybody around them was disintegrating and imploding. Oh, okay, smartass. I'm talking about Aussie guys. Just try it. Practice camping in your living room for a weekend and upscale your inventories appropriately to, like I said, about a week. Do you need those big $110 buckets of food? Generally speaking, probably not. Most people will not need that. Do you need the highest tech gear? No. Right? You can make it a full weekend on battery power. And please, people, you can't cook on batteries. Just don't bother trying. All right? It's not that hard. All right. Yeah, it's Ozzy brings up a good point. Living in an apartment building automatically changes your rules of engagement. You can't use a lot of the camping related cooking stuff, propane cooking stuff. Summer heat, no AC might be too much for most people. And yet that's how you're going to live for a couple weeks after a disaster. You're not going to have AC. Your heat is going to be limited. All right, you got to figure out other ways to do it. All right. Where am I? Hour and 5 minutes. Is that it? How many times have I said water, people? Water, water, water. I swear to God, if I could find somebody to come up with instant water, I would. By the way, it would be a chemical chain reaction, which probably would release a lot of heat. So, not necessarily the best idea. Okay. All right. Going to move on to Datislav Act. And I gotta stop the screen. Present. Share screen. Window. Section 5, exemptions. All right. Exemptions is huge. I had to break it down into 3 parts. Mandatory exemptions are the ones that even if we don't want to give it to you, even if everybody around you says this guy we shouldn't be doing this because he's a good guy, the courts have to say yes. You qualify under one of these conditions, you are exempt, and that's it. All right. I want to point out something. For mandatory exemptions, with one exception, all of these could potentially be reversed later. All right. The first one is convicted felons. Well, yes. And to the best of my knowledge, literally every state in the union has a way of rehabilitating 90% of the felony convictions out there. What's the problem here? Ooh. The problem here is I'm using the wrong screen. There. You might have to full screen this. There we go. All right. So the following categories of persons shall or may be exempt. Convicted felon, any person upon conviction of a felony crime who has not had their right to vote restored. Restoration of duty to carry is required for the restoration of voting rights for any public office or to hold any public office. This exception shall be imposed and explained to those convicted of any felony at time of sentencing. Pause. Question has been asked, well, if you're so dangerous, why are you still in public? Because not all felonies need to go to, or not all felons necessarily need to go to prison for it. And a lot of people are convicted of a felony and released on parole. All right. I'm thinking of Michael Milken. That's the first name that always springs to my mind. Another one, felony DUI, where nobody was hurt, but property was destroyed. All right. So just bear that in mind. Drug abusers. Any person convicted of a crime where drug abuse is determined to be a factor has voluntarily committed to outpatient drug treatment or inpatient alcohol treatment facilities, or been referred to alternative judicial procedural system, shall be exempt during treatment and beyond in not more than 6-month period for any one exemption hearing of 2 years total. This exemption shall be imposed and explained at the time of conviction treatment order. Okay. You're a drug abuser, right? For 6 months, you need to focus on getting yourself clean. In 6 months, we'll take a look and see, are you better now? And it probably will be first couple times. No. You need to demonstrate that you really do have your shit back together. And then we'll talk. All right. right then you have something much more important to deal with. You need to get yourself back together. Mentally impaired. Any person involuntarily committed to a facility due to mental impairment, determined to be incompetent to stand trial, or been placed into guardianship as an adult shall be exempt. This exemption shall be imposed and explained at time of ruling. Psychological incompetent. Any person involuntarily committed to a facility due to psychological impairment, determined to be incompetent to stand trial, or been placed in guardianship as an adult shall be exempt. This exemption shall be imposed and explained at time of ruling. Okay. You are not able to think clearly. Your mind does not work properly. Your fault, their fault. Nobody's fucking fault at all. You're exempt. With the grace of God, go. Just go. And you might not have a choice about going. You might be involuntarily committed. All right. Physically disabled. Any person presenting to a competent jurist documentation of a physical disability to comply with the act, or to which the judge can, upon inspection, on their own determine incapacity to comply with the law, may be exempt. This exemption shall be imposed and explained at time of ruling. Okay. I'm thinking the first thing that always pops to mind is Stephen Hawking's. He was wheelchair bound for longer than I've been alive now. All right. What are we going to do? Hang M134s off the side of his wheelchair? Get real. How about a 90-year-old who's been bedridden for the last 5 years? You're going to ask him to swing that M1 Garand around? That's not going to happen. How about somebody who does not have hands, has prosthetic hands? All right. Flag on the play. Somebody with prosthetic hands, as that technology improves, may not necessarily have the exemption. But as it stands right now, there is no prosthetic hands that I'm aware of that would make you capable of using a weapon of any sort, except maybe a knife. All right, you can't even, practically speaking, use a baton. Grace of God, go and don't start sinning now. Right? If you physically cannot do this thing, okay, go. You're fine. Thank you. All right. Indigent, any person incapable of compliance with this law based on a judicially reviewed status of homelessness may be exempt. Said exemption is granted as an affirmative defense to citation and upon determination remain as a prohibition to carry. So I was homeless at one point. I did have a gun. I was also, as homeless people go, I was in a slightly better than average situation. I saw others that they couldn't. All right. If they had a gun, they'd have to keep it on them literally 24/7 because somebody would steal it from them. And somebody would have tried to steal it anyway. All right. With the grace of God, you've got more important things to deal with, and we should be dealing with those more important things. But go. Now, I wouldn't have applied for this exemption, right? I had my car. Let me get right to it. I had my car. Somebody who's living in a tent does not even have the security of a car. With the grace of God, go. But once you apply for that indigent exemption, you're stuck with it. It's yours, buddy. All right. So all of the ones I've talked about so far, your status could change. You're mentally incompetent. Maybe by some miracle, your brain starts working properly. You get bonked on the head just right, puts everything back into order. All right. That's never happened that I'm aware of. But theoretically speaking, or maybe some super drug or something comes along that your brain starts working properly. You may no longer be exempt. You go to the court, you say, Your Honor, my brain's working properly now. I can explain to you this, that, the other thing. I was homeless. I might have applied for the indigent exemption. That was 2, 4, 6, 7 years ago. Right? I'm not homeless anymore. I would go to the court and say, Your Honor, I'm not homeless anymore. And I'm asking you to revoke my indigent exemption. All right. The next one does not have a reversal option. Membership in violent political organizations. Any person convicted of organizing, instigating, or aiding a violent political protest or a protest intended to create violence, even if no violence occurs, or interferes or attempts to interfere with voting, peaceful assembly, emergency services, or public safety personnel, or elected or other public officials in the performance of their duty, may be prohibited from bearing any weapons or any item determined by a peace officer to be intended for use as a weapon. This exemption shall be imposed and explained at time of sentencing and shall remain for the duration of their life unless the individual has had said conviction expunged, completed an additional 10 years without further political protests, and completed anger management training. While this exemption is in place, the exempted under this section are forbidden to vote in any election for public office or hold any public office. All right. Ku Klux Klan is a very violent political organization. Antifa. This is actually called the Antifa exemption because I first thought of it because of what Antifa was doing at the time. Very violent political organization that demonstrates their willingness to kill. John Brown Club, right? And has been involved in murders. I don't care what you say. Yes, that guy had a fucking AR-15. He pointed it at the Dodge. Right? On the flip side, some of the January 6th protesters really were violent. The people bashing the glass in on the corridor, you were bashing glass in. What did you expect was going to happen? You tell me. Right? A lot of the people at January 6th were just standing around smoking pot off on the sidewalk. That is actually documented to have happened. Some of the people were scuffling with cops, were not necessarily interfering with the public officials' duties. They were just caught up in a situation. Some of them were instigating with cops. Not every one of those is anywhere near the same thing. I'm sorry, but being a little old lady holding an American flag in the rotunda of Congress is not a violent political protester. I don't care what you say. On the other hand, bashing in glass, yeah. Oh, God fucking damn it. Persons exempt under these sections shall be prohibited from nor required to carry as permitted, restricted by a competent court. Flag on the play. The court might say under, especially under psychological and mental incompetence. Certain people have shown a tendency to use certain types of weapons in inappropriate ways. All right. I'm thinking of a very famous actress who bragged about the fact that her and her husband used to play with knives. Okay. No. All right. You two are exempt. You've shown us all that you can't be trusted with knives in public. All right. They might say to me, you know what, Mr. Carey, you've talked a little too much about pepper spray and how casually and freely you will use it. No, you're not going to carry pepper spray. Might be somebody who is absolutely inappropriate. I'm thinking of convicted felons here. Somebody who's shown that they shouldn't be trusted with a gun, but maybe they can be trusted with pepper spray. Okay, you can carry pepper spray later on. Except as exempt under G or Part A pursuant to a conviction under this act, persons exempt under these sections may have their exemption rescinded at a later date as provided by law under the same conditions as restoration of franchise. Persons exempted under Part G may only have their exemption status rescinded by dismissal or exoneration of the underlying criminal charges. Person exempt under Part A may not have their franchise rights restored until such time as their duty to carry is restored. Okay, G is violent political protester. A is convicted felon. If you're a convicted felon and you have not had your duty to carry restored, you're not getting your right to vote back either. Violent political protester, you just kissed your ass. You kissed your life goodbye. All right? You're not going to vote. You're not going to hold public office. And we're going to have to work on this a little bit because there's two sets of restorations, and I need to fix that. And by the way, violent political protester, you're done. You cannot carry keys if a cop says, nope, this is a weapon. You can't carry that in public anymore. Any person who applies for a mandatory exemption shall be exempt to such degree as is approved by the judge, to include total restriction, partial, general restriction based on category, or selective. Holy shit, that's a long one. That is not the longest one. That's the part that really sucks. There's also only two people here. Okay. Present. I'm going to get that chat back up there. I'm going to go over this chat real quick. Oh, all right. There we go. I remember protein bars. Okay. Shit. All right, Ozzy, that is known as prison or the death sentence, death penalty, both of which I am totally for in certain circumstances. All right. Hop back over to the chat. Ozzy asks, does an embezzler need to be locked in a cell for years at a time at taxpayer expense versus making them work physical labor with no access to corporate funds and parole seems fair? You know, actually, ¿por qué no las dos? 2A recognizes criminal lunacy exempt from bearing arms. I've never seen that. Arm the nurse, I assume refers to a physical disability exemption. And yes, the nurse is not physically disabled, so she's not exempt. All right. DJ is talking about, oh, Whoa, we have somebody new here today. Baby Girl 1982 is I've never even heard of you. So apparently DJ has been holding out information on me. Shame on you, DJ. Don't worry about it, DJ. All right. Oh, chat. Let's do that. There we go. All right. I want to reiterate something here. First of all, not everybody with the same kind of exemption may necessarily have all of the same things. Somebody who has no hands, they may be able to use something else and demonstrate to the judge, yes, I can handle a gun because I've got these multi-million-dollar prosthetics. Okay, well, I guess you're not exempt. So you're going to carry, right? Yes, Your Honor. Versus somebody else who has and sorry, Ozzy, but it's the truth. The social social system prosthetics, which is the only kind you can get in Canada anymore, or Britain. You can barely close your hands, or you can barely get them open. You can only barely hold onto things, right? With the grace of God, go. And versus somebody else who maybe has pepper spray built into a dispenser on the back of their wrist. Okay, that's a new one. All right. And that might be a $50,000 piece of equipment. This guy with the social safety net arms was gifted this pepper spray dispenser. Okay. Was gifted this $50,000 pepper spray dispenser by his very, very rich buddy. Well, okay, guess what? You're going to carry pepper spray from now on, is what the judge says, right? And you better say yes, Your Honor, because I have this $50,000 pepper spray dispenser that my buddy gave me. Okay. Let's go back to Stephen Hawkins for a minute. He had that computer thing that he was able to talk through, right? Great, good for him. If that computer thing could reliably be used for self-defense in some fashion, well, you may not be exempt anymore there, Doc. Ow. Convicted felon. Somebody. Yeah. Somebody convicted of felony DUI. Was driving drunk, ran her car right through a brick wall, damaged the wall but didn't destroy it, destroyed her car, and was still sitting there unconscious when the cops showed up. I'm not talking about a hypothetical person. I'm talking about a real person that I'm thinking of. I'll say that her first name. How do I? Luna. Okay, her first name was Luna. Fuck you. Her first name was Luna. And she blew a blood alcohol content about 3 times legally dead. She was fucking plastered. Right? She didn't resist. They pulled her out of the car, they put the handcuffs on her. They had to take her to the hospital because she was literally that drunk. Okay. felony DUI, is she exempt from all mandatory carry exemption considerations? Well, no, because she also had very dangerous people around her in her very real life. She gave all of her guns to her brother-in-law or some brother, something like that. I don't remember. And they took off for a while. She got her shit back together. I think it took 3 years, and she had all of her rights restored. Great, good for you. All right. But in the meantime, she had to get her shit back together. Is it reasonable for the judge to say, you know what, I am taking your guns away, I'm taking your brass knuckles away, I'm taking your batons away. You can keep your musical instruments, you can keep your chef's tools, which included a lot of very, very expensive and sharp knives. But until you get your shit together, no guns for you. And I'm taking your guns, of course. But you know what? You can continue to carry pepper spray. Well, okay. That's what the judge said, based on considerations unique to this case. Thank you, DJ. Right. The real hammer is, of course, violent political protesters. You know what? If you're going to fuck around like that, you deserve to find out. Right? Yes, it's called the Antifa exemption because it was created with them in mind. They're not the only bad actors in that consideration. KKK. What can I say? Hey, that rhymes. Right. There are other considerations, and the judges do have to give each case its individual consideration. All right. I know somebody who is kind of borderline competence. She's an idiot. She really is. But she's got enough in her head to understand that, oh, thank you. That I think she's watching right now. Sorry, folks. Okay, wait. Where was I? I'm sorry, folks. She's got it together enough to understand certain rights from wrongs. Yes, I would trust her with a gun, but I wouldn't ask her to go to war. All right. There are also some people, and this is under psychological competence. I'm thinking of a particular name right now. Has his brains do work all the right way, but I'm absolutely convinced if he was ever given a gun, that he would not use it. That's a mental block, right? That's the thing that would have to be dealt with on a case by case. But the judge says, well, Mr. mandatory carry himself, the original fucking mandatory carry faggot, standing here right now saying that you cannot be trusted with a gun because you will not use it. You know what, Mr. R? I'm going to exempt you from carrying a gun for mental competence. But I'm not going to grant his motion, his request, that you be banned from carrying any weapons. And I better see that you've been carrying pepper spray around with you literally everywhere that you are not specifically forbidden to do so. That's a judge's discretion based on the specifics of the case. Okay. So, unless there's questions here, which is the reason why I do this, folks. DJ, I gotta get you back here one of these days. I think you and Ghost could probably roast me best of all. And I do. I want to get roasted so bad. Or at least try. But anyway, so unless there's questions about mandatory exemptions, before you ask, a very important part of mandatory exemption is a judge has to say, yes, this person is applicable based on these. And once you have it, it's yours. You're stuck with it for a while. You may be stuck with it the rest of your life. You may be stuck with it for 6 months, whatever. But the judge has to actually step in and say, yes, you qualify, and this is why. All right. The hell was I going to do? Basic get home bag kit. First of all, have your water bottle at your desk. Swap it out once in a while. Because of the fucking Karens in the world, keep a mask. Any mask, anything that just covers your face. Listen, there's always going to be that what I call myself and what Fix calls me when she's particularly happy with me. The word that starts with F and ends with T. Right? There's always going to be that guy out there who says your mask is not good enough for me. Yeah, well, fuck you. My your nose is not good enough for my fist either. Get away from me. But anyway, carry a mask. Just remember, you have to get home. Right? This person, you just need to get past him and get your ass home. So have a mask and just be ready to put it on long enough to get past him. Be ready to have a coat or something in case it gets cold unexpectedly. Have a couple granola bars or something that you can get a little bit of energy from. Right. And have enough long sleeve and related gear available that you can get your arms, your head, and your face covered. If nothing else, to protect you from the sun, the rain, the whatever the hell it is that's making it, that's scaring you and bothering you and making your life very, very difficult right now. Oh, shit. I keep forgetting. Now, obviously, I don't advertise for companies, but I can tell you. Shit. I can demonstrate it anyway. No rule against me demonstrating it, Susan. There are these sleeves that are meant to protect you from the sun. And there's a lot of people that make these, so I may have ordered the wrong size. But cover your arms. In winter, they'll help serve as a wind break. And that's what I originally got these for. Cover my hand and my wrist area so that my gloves, there's that little break or that little separation between your gloves and your jacket. The wind just shoots right up. Um, that's the original reason I got these. But they're actually made to protect you from the sun. Let me see. I'll just leave that on. Fuck you, Susan. I found these by Googling UPF 50. There we go. Ah. Ha. I didn't tell you who made them, but I did tell you how to find it. All right. Let me get that covered up. Water bottle, a little bit of food, some stuff to keep your body covered. My actual get home kit, keep it at work. And enough of a mess to tell Karen to go fuck himself and just get your butt home. You just focus on getting your butt home for now. Karen will run afoul of somebody sooner or later. Don't worry. Somebody will take care of him for you. Also, a neat little thing you should consider keeping. If you smoke, keep a spare pack of cigarettes at your desk, station, whatever. If you don't smoke, keep a pack of cigarettes at your desk, station, whatever. All right. Once a week, we've all got a smoker coworker. Give your pack to your smoker coworker, your favorite one, which will obviously never be me, and keep a fresh pack there. Those cigarettes turns into a lot of money for getting past Antifa checkpoints. Now you pay the toll of a couple cigarettes to get past them so you can get home. Believe me, you will get past them. They will absolutely take it each and every time because they're fucking corrupt little shit. Bad people. It'll get you past them to get home. Up until that time, and I'm thinking of incidents like the Chaz, right? If you worked outside of the Chaz and now you need to get home, you're getting right past that checkpoint like it's not even there by bribing the guard. Oh, not guard, the gangster with the AK-47. With a couple cigarettes, and you're good to go. Until then, give them to a coworker. They'll love you. They just got a free pack of cigarettes. They might even know why you do it. So what? So they know you do. So they know why you do it. All right. They will love you until then. All right. We are at an hour and 45 minutes. I'm not seeing. God damn it. I am sorry about that, DJ. Let's see if this works. Well, that's really Susan, you fucking cunt. All right, so let's move on. Unless there are questions related to the content, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. Baby girl, that is a United States Coast Guard battle ensign. That is a generic Christian flag. Questions, guys, please. Or I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I'm going to rattle on for a couple of minutes. Oh, by the way, a list of the people that I have bought from in the past can be found in the community tab. I'm just saying, including this colonial militia and the Union soldier shirts. Okay, well, I guess that's gonna wrap it up for this week. Yeah, I guess so. All right. Until next week, folks, keep calm and mandatory carry on.